Hey everyone! I'm Hannah, and I recently turned 16. Despite my young age, I live with my boyfriend Angelo and his parents. This is the result of the actions of my completely cruel, jealous, and narcissistic mom. Here's my story. Ever since I was a child, my mom had been quite abusive and never hesitated to threaten me or my little sister May, who is 11 years old now and living with our dad. Oftentimes, my dad was at work, and there was really nothing he could do to help us. My mom and dad would have lots of fights about the way that she treated us, but no matter what he said, she continued to be cruel.
Hannah, get downstairs right now.
I remember one instance where I was just playing with some toys in my room when my mother had called me down. I was confused, but complied. Yes, Mom?
Didn't I tell you to do the dishes? What kind of stupid kid are you? You can't expect me to be doing all the work in the house.
I can't reach the sink, Mom. I'm sorry. But I did all of the laundry and even ironed it.
That's not good enough. I can't believe I gave birth to such a useless kid.
I still remember that day and how it played out. Mom had grabbed me and dragged me to the backyard. She dunked me into the pool and held my head in there, claiming that it was to make me learn. The drowning and suffocating feeling that I experienced still hasn't left me, and I now have a deep phobia of swimming. I was only 6 years old at the time. May was only 1 when this happened, but as she got older, my mom only seemed to get more and more annoyed with us. She would constantly ignore us and complained endlessly about how we were just money and time wasters. If we ever saw a mother with her newborn baby, Akuma would begin warning her about the hell that she'd be enduring in no time. Which is just sickening to think about, because as a new mother, you should be proud. When I was 8, my mom painfully left a scar on my hand from a pan that she'd just been cooking with. Her reason for that was because I'd grown out of my clothes and she was annoyed that she needed to spend money on more. Over time, my mom would keep acting narcissistic and rude towards me, forcing me to do all of her chores and physically hurting me when I didn't do it to the max. But even if I did do what was told of me, my mom would have a complete mood change and hurt me anyway. I experienced this for most days in my childhood, and at the end of every day I would wait for my dad to come home so I could cry in his arms. My dad, Thomas, was a very compassionate man who worked very hard to support his family. He felt disheartened to know that his wife was hurting me and my sister, but couldn't risk missing work or else he could get fired. When I was 9, my parents divorced and a big fight happened, where my dad and mom fought over the custody rights of me and May. It dragged on for a long time, but my mom ended up lying and got full custody of both my sister and I. Thomas was ordered to pay a large amount of money to Akuma for child support. We didn't see our dad again for a long time after that, which was devastating for me and my little sister. I was 11 years old when my mom began becoming weirder and more desperate, should I call it. By then, I've learned to just keep my head down and do whatever she ordered me to do, even if I was completely worn out by the end of it.
May! Hannah!
My sister and I walked over to my mom with confusion.
We need money, so I've decided that you and your sister are to go out on the street and beg for it. And don't come back until you have enough for the rent.
Huh?
Don't make me repeat myself. Get down there and beg. Don't make me take you to the pool again.
I shivered at the mention of the word pool and decided to comply. At least if I did this for her, then I wouldn't have to experience the pool again. Hopefully. My mom smirked and handed both me signs to hold up that read "Need money for food" and sent us on our way. We lived pretty close to a crowded area, so it was easy to find people that took pity on us and gave what they could. I felt guilty scamming people like that, but I knew that if I didn't do as I was instructed, that our mother would hurt us, and so I tried to look as pathetic as possible to get as much sympathy from people as I could. Not long after that, our mother then forced us to start pickpocketing people and to even break into our neighbors' homes with her help. She would sell the things that we stole and keep the money for herself. We were forced to hand over the money that we collected from pickpocketing or begging to our mom, and at that point it was obvious why. She needed money. But how could this add up if my dad was paying a hefty sum of child support? After seeing how my mom was keeping all the money to herself, I began to take some of the money that we stole or begged for and hide a few dollars for myself and keep it in my room. I had May do the same. Over time, the money accumulated, and I was able to get myself and May our own cheap flip phones. By the time I was 13, I ended up being able to save around $500, which was more than enough to help myself. Time rolled by slowly as I grew depressed and more pent-up anger boiled inside of me. I couldn't wait to get out of here. Shortly after high school had started, a cute guy from my stats class came up to me and asked for my number. His name was Angelo, and we hit it off right away, soon garnering the title of boyfriend and girlfriend. I loved our relationship as it was nurturing and healthy, unlike the ones I had at home. As usual, I made sure to keep this a secret from my mom, and I was successful until one unexpected day. I came home to see my room flipped almost completely upside down. There were papers scattered everywhere, and my heart sank when I saw what they were. The love letters Angelo had written me. I turned to leave the room, but my mom happened to be blocking it. Mom?
Welcome back, you tramp. I was just digging around when I found those lovely papers.
Mom, that's none of your business. That's my life. Angelo's my boyfriend. Why would you even search through my room like that?
Well, I gave birth to you, so you are my property, which means that I get to make the rules. Who taught you to be such a filthy girl? You disgust me, and look what's going to happen.
I watched in absolute horror as my mom lit a match and tossed it onto the papers, setting them ablaze. Soon my bed sheets caught on fire as well, and I worked quickly to put the fire out. Finally, when it had turned to black ash, I glared at my mom. What is wrong with you? I've been nothing but obedient my entire life and tried to make you happy, but it was never enough. You don't understand how much physical and mental pain you've caused me? How I spent endless nights crying myself to sleep because you've never been a good enough mother to me and May? How I wished that Dad had gotten us instead of you. I couldn't stop letting the tears flow as I screamed at my mom. Her eyes glazed over at me lazily, and a smile tugged at the corner of her lip. There was something about the way she was looking at me that sent shivers down my spine, when suddenly there was a loud bang as the door to our home was forced open and police officers rushed in. I watched as my mom's face completely dropped and she shot a death glare at me as if I had something to do with it, just as the officers grabbed her and threw her to the ground. After she was handcuffed, my father and May walked into the apartment. My eyes widened when I saw my little sister, and she immediately ran into my arms when she noticed me.
It's going to be okay now, sis. I couldn't take it anymore, so I used the internet to figure out where Dad was. I then went and found Dad, and together we went to the police. The police rushed over here as soon as we told them that you were still in danger.
Just as May came over to me, Akuma broke free from the officers and tried to kick May. Thankfully, the police wrestled her back to the ground before she could actually hurt her. They then dragged her away, leaving May and I with Thomas. He looked a bit older and tired, but also less stressed, if that made sense. It was like leaving his wife made his life easier, but losing his kids made it hell.
We will have to go to the police station later and give our side of the story, but for now, let's just enjoy this moment of peace.
She was right. It felt liberating to know that for the first time in years, that we were safe. At least for the moment. I called up Angelo and he joined us, and I introduced him to Thomas. It was a bit awkward, but they bonded over the fact that they both cared for me. Later, we went down to the police station and gave our statements and told them about everything that our mother had done and had forced Yus to do. The officers were shocked at how cruel she had been. Afterwards, the officers let Thomas take May home with him, and after a bit of convincing, they allowed me to stay with Angelo and live with him. The trial surrounding my mom started fairly quickly, and the jury decided that she was guilty on all counts of child abuse, negligence, delinquency of a minor, and theft. My mom was fined $15,000 to pay off the child support she now owed my dad in return. She was also sentenced to 30 years in jail without parole. That was good enough. By the time she gets out, the old hag will be about 80 years old. My sister and I both took the witness stand, and after the trial, my family went out to celebrate. Angelo's family was there too, and for the first time since ever, I felt at peace. I was finally going to be surrounded by the people who actually cared for me. Today, I'm still with my boyfriend. I've been seeing a therapist for my trauma, and I still keep in touch with my dad and sister. As for my mom, she's still rotting in prison, depressed and alone. The inmates found out she hurt her children and were not tolerant of that. From what I've heard, she has been sent to the prison infirmary more than once. As serious as the crimes that the other inmates committed, they didn't tolerate people that hurt children. So what do you think? Thank you for listening to my story.